Hey guys, good morning.
Howdy, y'all.
Howdy, howdy. So a little bit different video today. Instead of doing a video focusing on techniques, I thought it would be fun to talk to my favorite Uki to work with. Yep,
So sweet.
Master
Such
Ryan
an honor.
Rodriguez.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So normally he's just kind of helping me out and taking falls and getting beat up. But I thought it would be fun if you guys got to know the man behind the mirror, so to speak. So we're going to do a little bit of an interview this morning just to get a little better idea of the
Yo.
inside of his head, which may be a scary place.
It's so scary.
So, how did you get started in
Um,
martial arts?
I got started not super duper young, but still like 10, 11. Mainly was interested into it for a lot of different reasons. One of them was I'd gone through a couple different sports already and determined I didn't really like them. I did soccer, I did baseball. I never did football, but I never liked it, and I wasn't a big basketball fan either, so that was just one of the next like things to do as a kid that was like still interesting and fresh to me. Then that compounded with having some, I would say some, others might say a lot of anger issues as a kid. Was another reason my parents were very interested in getting me in there.
Sure.
And then also just some bullying and self-confidence issues at school, but like everyone has that. So it was just a nice little perfect storm, and then I happened to end up at a martial arts school that taught good martial arts, so I was able to actually get in and actually start learning, and then just once I was in, they couldn't get me out, so...
Now, the first one that you did was Taekwondo?
Yeah, I started training in Taekwondo, then from there, that school started introducing other martial arts to help us cross-train, so Taekwondo, kickboxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, arnis, little kali, and then eventually Hapkido.
Of the ones that you started with, which was your favorite?
My favorite that I started with, I don't know, I really enjoyed Taekwondo, and I think it might have been my favorite just because I devoted the most time to it, so it was the one I was most proficient in. So it was like, that was the game I could play to the fullest. That was like, I was a master chess player who also happened to play like backgammon and Go. So like, I could play the others, but not as well. So it didn't feel like home as much. So initial starting martial arts, it would be probably Taekwondo.
Okay. Now, it's funny you mentioned introducing other arts, because that's actually how we met. So our school had a mutual student, a long-term student of my father's, that was running that school at the time. So
He was my instructor.
yeah, he was Master Ryan's instructor here. So that's kind of how we met. He was really, really young. You were what, 12, I think, whenever we met, something like that.
Then January 2013, yeah, 12.
Yeah, yeah.
Shortly to be 13.
Yeah, yeah. So he was right on the cusp there. But yeah, so that's how we met, and you know, I just see this little scrawny boy.
I was a
now
little
doing-
chubby.
Oh yeah, but you were little.
It was a little, yeah.
And he was going to start Hapkido with us, and I thought it was really cool. Now, of all the arts that you've trained, because you've had exposure to a lot of different things, why Hapkido? Out of all of them, like what drew you to that?
First, it was just availability because, like the aforementioned ones, it was just being offered at the school I was training at. So it was, of course, why not? It's another branch of the tree. I want to find out what else there is. And then just the more I got into it, the more I liked the complexity of the techniques, the fluidity you can obtain, all the different chaining and like continuous fluidness of and like different transitions and techniques. I really enjoyed all that real technical aspect. And then also I loved that I could take because like from Taekwondo, I couldn't add in judo. I couldn't add in that much judo to Taekwondo. Because what am I going to do? Hip throw someone in a sparring match and then get DQ'd?
Sure.
That's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But with Hapkido, I could take everything else I had and I could bring that to that.
Right.
Whereas a lot of the other ones, I could take some of the principles, I could take some small things, but Hapkido was the first martial art that I really found that was like, oh, I can just take all my knowledge and pour it into this, and they're going to love it, and I'm going to love it, and it's going to be great. And then just from there, I still like dabbling into other ones because like I've tried capoeira, I've tried a couple other things still, but not. I still love Hapkido as the main one because I can take information I take from somewhere else, plug it back into that, and plus with the more focus on actual combat scenarios, it makes it more worthwhile. Like technically, if you want to approach it from that perspective, like I'm investing more training into something that's more self-defense focused.
Right.
So it will be more useful for me if I actually need it.
Sure.
As opposed to something more sport or tournament focused or tradition focused.
I like how you were talking about combining a lot of your other training into it, because really that's I might be stepping on toes here, and that's fine, but that's really kind of was the start of Hapkido, right? I mean, it was a blend of arts from the beginning. So you can only kick and punch somebody so many ways, so many different directions until you start to get blends, you know? So Master Ryan and I have talked extensively about the differences in judo hip throws versus Hapkido hip throws, you know, whether you're doing feet together and dropping low versus like a horse stance kind of position, you know, there's different methods and different ways of doing that there. So it's really cool. Having trained with him, it's really cool to see some of the applications. Him and I nerd out the entire class talking about variances. I mean, last night in class, you know, we were talking about which technique was that?
Tantosh?
Tayatosh. We were talking about Tayatosh and how to apply it from translating it from judo to Hapkido. So it's super fun, you know, so we get to do this all the time. Now, you've trained quite a bit in a lot of different arts.
Some could say.
You've had
a few.
You've had some interesting experiences.
Yeah.
Is there any particular moment or story that kind of stands out to you?
There actually, now that I remember, there actually is. There was one that was very neat. I really enjoyed because specifically it was really strange and very barely allowed where I was. So as you know, I just recently worked at a summer camp in South Carolina that was working through the Boy Scouts of America. So I was working at that camp. We were doing a 1700s reenactment section of the camp. So basically, we were educating the kids on like old school working techniques like sewing, knife making, leather working, blacksmithing, stuff like that, and also just teaching them about history and other things. So one of the demonstrations one of our staff members would give was a demonstration on slave resistance and just the historical categorizing of it and like how it happened in the Americas, not as violently, and why, because just of the limitations of their environments and stuff, versus down in South America and Central America where they had a lot more violent slave revolutions because it was a lot easier for them to do it and actually be successful with it. And he would eventually lead into Brazil, which is one of the few places that has actually just been able to liberate itself mostly through the slave resistance, because they would found their own small cities based around different capoeira stylists and different, like, the slaves would learn a martial art called capoeira. It was disguised as a dance to be able to be like, oh no, we're just doing our ritualistic, like, traditional dance from home. We're not doing anything bad, Mr. Slave Owner. I promise I wouldn't rebel. I promise, pinky promise. But, of course, that's not how that happened. But, so, during that demonstration, he would show off a little bit of capoeira, and I would get to do a little, in capoeira they call it playing. You would probably know it better as sparring or fight time. But I got to spar around with him a little for the demonstration. And capoeira has a very specific, like, you aren't trying to hit them. You're just trying to get them to know you could have hit them. And you're trying to keep it flowing, and you're trying to do more outlandish stuff to keep topping your opponent, because it's not just how you win now, it's more the style, because it's become less of a martial art in the sense of it's combat and self-defense focused, and more it's like art focused. And like, oh, you're trying to have really good muscle control, you're trying to slow your kicks down as much as you can, so that way I'm not flying past your face, I'm letting you know I would have hit you.
I could have got you.
You know. And then that's also displaying how much leg strength, muscle control I have. And
they're insanely strong to be able to do that stuff. I mean,
and they do tons of crazy stuff. Like they incorporate flips, they incorporate cartwheels. Like part of starting a game of playing in capoeira, you have to like link hands, then cartwheel in, and then you start. That is how you start. If you can't cartwheel, you can't capoeira, basically. So there's some like innate, necessary understanding of body mechanics and more acrobatic or gymnastic techniques required for that martial art. So it was really fun. So that also made it very fun and very interesting for the people watching, because even if they were used to martial arts, they weren't used to something that looked like that.
Right.
And even if they were used to something that looked like that, it's so freeform and so fluid that they would have probably never seen capoeira that looked specifically like that.
So did you actually find capoeira players with you at the camp?
Not players. There was one other guy, and that was my friend Matt, who was one of the people who introduced me to the place and helped me get working there. He was the guy I would do capoeira with in Orlando and stuff. He would take me.
That's a cool connection. I didn't know that.
He's been going to that summer camp since he was in middle school.
Nice.
And then he started working there as he aged up, and then he's like, yeah, you should come. And then he's like, this year we're doing a demo on slave resistance, and I get to lead it. And I'm going to show some capoeira. Do you want to? And I was like, of course.
That's cool.
So we got to do that demo, and
that's really cool.
It was really fun. I'll see if I can find some video to show you.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
It was good.
That's very memorable.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure those kids will never forget that. You know?
Oh yeah, and he would always, he was a very hyperbolic person, and he'd introduce me like, this is my friend Ryan Rodriguez, who has like 1 billion black belts in a bunch of different martial arts, and I'm like, no. I'm just
a normal guy.
Just a normal guy who's got like 2 black belts and like done a lot of martial arts training and a bunch of different arts, but like.
But see, that shows you right there. It's not about your ranks. It's about the exposure. You know, like I think you get to a certain point to where like, I'm not saying black belt isn't important, but it's no longer the most important. You know, so you get to a certain point where it really becomes about the training. Like, you're not going to receive accolades for doing capoeira at a summer camp.
No.
But it's about the experience of going there and doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
learning history and stuff, and it was really cool.
Obviously, martial arts is a big part of both of our lives.
Little.
In case you guys didn't know, Ryan enjoys doing a lot of different things outside of martial arts. So
here we go.
I was hoping you could give us a list of some of your favorites.
Okay.
I know that you're all over the place and do a lot of different things, so, you know.
I'll try to tap into a bunch of different categories so you get a better wide painting.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll save the rest of it for the book that you're going to write later.
Yeah,
so it's
or if you have questions, if you're seeing this video, you know me. Talk to me.
Yeah. Ask him questions in the chat.
Please.
You know, down below. That's fine.
I'll try to
you can
respond.
Ask him questions.
I have a lot of different interests in stuff kind of martial arts related. I'm really into exercise. I enjoy exercising, specifically a lot of more unconditional exercising, not unconditional, more unconventional stuff that's more practical. Like, I really enjoy rock climbing, parkour. I dabble in that a little because I can transfer over some of the break falls and stuff, and it makes it a lot easier and a lot safer for me, because then I don't have to learn break falls out in the wild, learn them in a nice safe environment, and then just get to apply them out in the wild. But I enjoy doing stuff like that because it works on that strength, it works on understanding your body, understanding mechanics. It's really good. Then I like a bunch of different skill-based crafts. I enjoy crafting and making things. So I really like blacksmithing, I really like leatherworking, I really like just tinkering in general. I've made necklaces and stuff like that. It's just fun. Then also I'm a big nerd. So we're talking everything from D&D to Star Wars to Magic the Gathering to video games to, if you name it, I've heard of it or I'm into it. Like, and if I'm not into it, it's like 5% of things. But I'm probably, like, I watch anime, I watch cartoons, I watch tons of nerdy stuff. I'm big nerd, but it's fun. It's good. If you haven't tried any nerdy stuff, recommend it. Don't believe the cringe. It's just fun.
Yeah.
Remember, as long as you have fun, nothing matters. Then.
Yeah. Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You know?
What's the point?
Yeah. You know, I've thought about something while you were naming off the list, and I don't want to throw him off here, but can you make, or is there may not be, but is there a connection for you between rock climbing, blacksmithing, and martial arts? Like, because those are the three things. I know we were talking about things outside of martial arts, but those are the three things that like seem to really stand out. Mm-hmm. You know, so is there something connecting that?
Yes and no. There's, of course, like very simple things. Like all of them require like a decent to high level of like physicality. Mm-hmm. Like you got to be more fit,
right,
to do these things more often than not. Because all three of them require a lot of problem solving. Because when you're rock climbing, the route stays the same. The rock doesn't change. You know where the hand holds are, you know where your feet holds are. You have to figure out, like they literally call them problems. You have to solve the problem. You have to be stronger than the problem. You have to figure out, okay, what's the best way? If I lean like this, then I can rest my weight on it. But if I lean like that, I'm just gonna fall straight off the wall. It's stuff like little minute differences matter. And then it's the same with blacksmithing. As you're hitting that metal, you're watching it change shape. So if it starts changing shape the wrong way, you gotta correct it back. You gotta get it to kind of work with it. And a lot of times the metal doesn't want to work with you. So also it's a lot of not just you trying to make it become what you want it to be. It's you gotta kind of feel where it wants to go. What's the best way to work with how it naturally wants to move. If it wants to start curling up on itself, add a little curl there to the handle or something, you know? Stuff like that. And
it's almost like you're listening to it. Like, what does it want to become?
Yes, it's a lot of not you trying to, and it's the same thing as like Hapkido water principle. With the water principle, I'm not trying to...
That's what I was just thinking of. Yeah.
I'm not trying to stop your punch and then make it go where I want.
Right.
I'm feeling your punch and I'm determining where you want to go, and then I'm just encouraging that at a outlet I desire. So if you want to go through me, then I will let you go through me. I might be out of the way and my foot might be there to trip you, but I'm gonna encourage that momentum. I'm gonna allow it to happen and continue it. Same with rocksmithing. Same with blacksmithing or rock climbing. I can't make the wall change. I have to listen to it, see how it wants to go, and see how I match into it. And then same with blacksmithing. I have to listen to the metal, see where it wants to go, and see how my plans for it intertwine with that, and see how they can incorporate, or if that changes my plans for it. Stuff like that.
It's funny. I know I fumble on my words all the time. It's definitely a thing. Rocksmithing, I know that was a mistake, but you know, you were talking about making it bend to your will. That might be a way that you make it bend to your will.
That could be a way.
Just go find a big mountain, start chipping away, right? Yeah.
I'll make this route easier. When there's just stairs in there, so we'll see who wins now.
Yes. There's the water principle, and then there's not.
Then there's
the
just
hammer
break
principle.
them down.
Yes. There's a reason we practice breaking in martial arts. I know this might be difficult for you.
Of course it is.
It would be for me. Pretend there is a world. In a world.
Hapkido world.
Where martial arts does not exist, like it's not something that you got into,
Okay.
is there something else out there that you could see yourself doing in lieu of martial arts?
In lieu? I don't think there's anything that... Because if there's anything that really takes its seat, it would technically just be more martial arts, because then I was going to be like, well, I really enjoy LARPing, but LARPing you fight with foam weapons, which, although it's more freeform and not really taught as a corrugated style, you're still learning combative arts, still
Right.
technically martial arts, it's just very self-founded. So I'm going to count that as a technicality and not use that. Really, I don't know if there's anything else I would get into. I think I would just dive further into my other hobbies that I currently have. I'd be more into rock climbing. It's just, because I really love the other things, I just love martial arts more. So if I didn't have a thing I loved more, those things would be the things I loved more.
Right.
So I think I would just become more involved in rock climbing, more involved in blacksmithing, stuff like that.
Just dive deeper into the things that you are
Yeah.
kind of doing, yeah.
Because I always view it as life is finite. There's a billion things I want to do.
Sure.
It's not about determining what I want to do, like what I enjoy doing, because that's a lot of things. It's what I want to do most.
Right.
What by the time I'm 80 will I look at and be like, yes, this is how I wanted to spend my life. Like there could have been, like I would have loved to do a couple other things more, but I don't want to be like, I don't want to be like 80 and be like, oh, I rock climbed my whole life. I really wish I stuck with martial arts.
Right.
I'll be like, I did martial arts my whole life. I'm glad I got to dabble in other stuff as well.
Right.
That's how I look at it. And that's why right now martial arts has the priority for me.
Which is why I think it's healthy. Like if you look at all of the big names in American history, they, like Roosevelt, for example, he did so many different things, and it's not that he was a master of all those things. It's that he would dabble in different subjects to find out where was his thing. And I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And guys, sorry for the noise. We're at a coffee shop here in town. It's awesome. It's amazing. Copperline Coffee. Check it out. But
Not sponsored.
not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
But that's kind of what he was doing, really, was that he was dabbling in all these different things and trying to figure out what was his thing.
Yeah.
And I think that can be healthy. It can be healthy for your development and can help you even further in the things that you've chosen.
Yeah,
you know?
especially because, as we mentioned before, you can take principles, you can take philosophies from other things and
Right.
apply them to other stuff. That's honestly how a lot of innovation happens. A lot of innovation isn't making something brand new that we've never seen before. It's taking something we've applied to something else, then applying it to something new, and then
Right.
it's like, okay, how do we make it work?
Right.
How do we use this idea somewhere else?
Sure.
Is normally how innovation and new stuff comes around. Like a lot of martial arts innovation came not just from I studied Taekwondo my whole life. How do I make Taekwondo better? It was I studied Taekwondo my whole life and I learned a bunch of other things from other martial arts. How do I take what they know
Right.
and make Taekwondo better?
Right.
So same thing as that. Plus also I think that just gives you, it just makes you a more well-rounded person in general. Because normally you can kind of tell when someone's just dedicated their whole life to something, which is definitely something to be proud of, but it's not always necessarily the way.
Right.
It can be. There are many paths, is the moral of that story.
So, say you have somebody who is considering training. We have a saying that, a white belt is always better than somebody on the couch. So say you have somebody who's considering training, like yourself watching this video right now, wink wink, and they're considering, but they just don't know. They're not really sure where they land on it. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations for anybody who's interested in training, whether Hapkido or otherwise?
I would say there's a couple of things you want to do before you just go out and look at a school. if you're willing to put in just a slight bit of effort beforehand, which would be, I think you would want to focus on a couple things. What are you looking for? So are you looking for self-defense? Are you looking for physical activity? Are you looking for community? Are you looking for, what are you looking for? Because that can change a bunch of different things. If you're mainly looking for community with a little bit of exercise, not a whole lot, you aren't worried too much about self-defense, you should try something like Tai Chi or something, because then you're going to be really involved with that community. You're still going to be exercising, not super duper heavy exercising, but still exercising. And it's not going to be combat focused, but it's going to be doing what you want. Whereas Hapkido is going to be not super duper exercise focused, but we still have a lot of exercise just built in. It's a lot more combat focused, and we happen to be very community focused too. So we luckily get to provide that at our school. So we get to cover a lot of bases, but what are you looking for is very important. Because, I don't go to just any restaurant and be like, I'm hungry, but I want Mexican food. Let me go to this Japanese restaurant and then be very mad at myself.
Right.
I don't want to do that. And then besides that, I would say start with something you're more comfortable with. So if you're someone who's like, I've never really wrestled, I don't really like the idea of wrestling and rolling around with people on the ground, that seems a little uncomfortable right now to me, don't start with something like judo, jiu-jitsu, or wrestling. Start in something like taekwondo. Start in your comfort zone. Because no matter what, you're going to be removed from your comfort zone because you're in a new area, you're with new people, you're learning something new entirely. So start with the thing you are most comfortable with idea-wise. So if it's just like, we just go to a boxing class where we only punch the bag. I don't like the idea of us punching each other right now. That's not something mentally, I don't want to get punched, so I don't want to do that. And then you start the boxing class where you just like an exercise group-based boxing class where you're just hitting the bag.
Right. And
then from there you're like, okay, I'm kind of getting into this. I enjoy it more, but I'm worried if I get punched, I'm just going to fall to the ground because I'm learning how hard I can punch. I'm seeing it hurts. The bag, it's moving it. Now I want to start learning maybe normal boxing where I'm taking in some of that. Then I'm like, okay, now I'm more comfortable with that. Maybe I try introducing kicks because I don't want people getting as close to me in combat. Okay, now I start learning something like taekwondo, karate, some other kicking-based Muay Thai or something that has hands and kicks. Something, it's all about making sure you take steps that make it possible. You don't want to worry about getting there now because you won't become a master in whatever martial art you choose immediately. So you might as well lay out good groundwork intentionally. That way you aren't rushing and you're more solid on your footing. Because it's much easier to do things right the first time in martial arts than to get to black belt and then realize you're doing so many things wrong. And then having to relearn all those things you spent forever learning and conditioning into your body.
It's interesting because we see so many schools that are focused on rank. Like, hey, come to our school right now. By the way, we want you to sign up for a 1 or 2 year contract. Yeah. And, oh, by the way, we can guarantee that you're going to be a black belt in 2 years. If somebody can guarantee without knowing your skill level, that's questionable. So it's really about the journey, is what it sounds like.
It is about the journey, and also that is a good thing to bring up. If you're looking into getting into martial arts, really, really look into this school, because all taekwondo is not equal. All judo is not equal. All Hapkido is not equal. There are some Hapkido schools, like this one I might say, in my personal opinion, pretty phenomenal. There's others.
I agree.
There's others, not so much. Not to talk bad on anyone. There's no one in specific I'm thinking of, but just in general, there just like everything, there exists good and bad versions of it.
Absolutely.
So it's just, especially as someone, if you're looking at getting into it, you don't know the culture that much. You don't really know what to look for. So really take your time. Yeah. And avoid contracts as long as you can would be my advice, because buying back out of them is a pain. And it's just not fun. Yeah. But if you find a school that you really, really enjoy, and they're like, hey, we just have a contract because of liability and stuff, then don't be scared of it either. Just make sure you fully understand what you're getting into. Don't get lost in the excitement of just joining the school. Make sure it is a very good school for you. because what matters most to you, is your training. What matters most to me is my training. While I'm at the school, I care about the other students' training, and I'm going to help them, but my highest priority in martial arts is always going to be the efficiency of my training, how well I can get what's best for me to get better. So right now for me, this is staying here, and I really enjoy that, and probably for the foreseeable future that will be, but also you have to understand what you're looking for, what you want, and what's going to be most optimal for you.
Cool. Good words. Good words.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you letting us do this.
Oh yeah, no problem.
And it was a really good talk. Like we said, we've known each other for a very long time, so I actually learned some stuff today that I didn't know about you, so it's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate your time. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to comment on the video, and you can reach out to us. If you guys want to find out more information about us, we are the American Hapkido Alliance. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. We have some videos here on YouTube. Thank you to Nick at Copperline for letting us film here.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
If you guys have never been, go. It's a beautiful place. I love it. I spend way too much time here. It's fantastic.
You might be a little addicted.
Yeah, it's a little addictive,
just a
but
little.
it's fine. Okay, have a wonderful day.
All
We'll
right,
see you guys later.
See you around.
Bye.